Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of A Bunch of Blank Paper. I'm Costa, your host on this podcast, and today we're going to be speaking about a very important topic, which is structure. So let's dive in and talk about a little bit about the plot. What is the plot? I mean, the plot is something that you see. If you open up an IMDb page on your favorite movie, you will see the plot. So the plot is something that comes out of structure. So structure actually builds the plot. So if you have a great idea and you have all the elements you need in order to create the perfect screenplay for you, well, of course, here we might question the perfect because all the artists have always a sense of criticism to their own work, and they never think that this is perfect, for example. But you can definitely have a perfectly structured script. And in the end of the day, that's a sentence everybody uses, so I'm using it also. In the end of the day, this is what matters. So I guess most of you have heard, if not all of you have heard, the three-act structure term. This is something that, for me, it's not necessary to have in your mind because how are you gonna break your script? This is your own work, your own idea of how you want to break the script. So when we say three-act structure, then we have a very specific idea that, let's say, a very specific template to work on. And this is a template, the primary tools we got in order to start shaping our craft and start writing a script. But as Charlie Kaufman once said, it's like saying to a painter that, okay, you're going to start making this painting and you need to always have the sky up there. So that's actually a little bit restrictive on your creativity, and it keeps you constrained in some, let's say, shape that you need to work on. Sometimes we get a little bit confused about all these terms, and we keep writing, and then we say, oh no, this shouldn't go there. And when you use words like should I or no, negative thinking in general, that doesn't work, that doesn't help in writing a script. You always have to have a positive thinking. You always have to think forward. You always have to use a positive word in yourself when you're writing a script. You always have to say yes and then, or yes, let's go, move on. Yes, yes, this is yes. It's always yes. It's always positive. As long as you keep writing with your subconscious mind. And that means that the more you create something inside from your guts, and the more you say the truth to the audience, first to yourself and then to the audience, then this will become more clear on what you want to do afterwards. So you cannot write and edit at the same time. It's two very different processes. So you need to write, you need to get it out of there, you need to get it out of your stomach as fast as you can with no filter, and there you'll be able to understand how the structure works. Because when you say the truth and then when you come back to edit your script in a slow manner, in a slow tempo, because the key is to write fast but edit slow. This is what I do, and this is what works for most writers I know. Then you will realize that the structure is something that you actually can play and can shape on yourself. But yes, there are some fundamentals that you have to, it's not have to, because this is also negative thinking, that you need to take under consideration in terms of the time that you need to put some events in your screenplay. Okay, this I understand. But again, it's not a rule. It's something that you can break. It's something that you can shape on your own. In Save the Cut, for example, we have Act 1, Act 2A, Act 2B, and Act 3. So that's 4 acts. And some people might see it as 3 acts because it's 2A, 2B, but you can see it as 4 because this actually gives you a clue of how you can break down your script and make a great structure about your script. I talked about the fundamentals on the screenplay. So this has to do with some things you need to have in your script in order to communicate your truth more effectively and respectfully towards the audience. It's not, I'm saying again, the audience is not your first thing that has to come in your mind. The first thing that has to come in your mind is you. Your first priority is you and how you gonna say the story as truthful as you can, as honest as you can. And this will communicate also to the audience. But the audience, in order to come to the cinema, have spent some time in, calling their friends, calling their girlfriends, arranging for the cinema, arranging to go to the movies. So they're gonna step in the theater, and psychologically they need to get involved as soon as possible with your script. And that said, you can ask yourself, when are you getting interested in a film, and when are you starting to getting bored? I think that the first act is the most important in order to get your audience hooked to your story and start following actually the characters' want and the big obstacle that you need to have in the beginning, of course. So in my case, I would say that in my experience as well, I found that the first act is around 12 to 16 scenes. Or if you want to put it by pages, then up to 17, 20 pages maximum. That actually, of course, changes in terms of what you're writing. And I'm saying again, anything I say is for you to come and doubt it and change it and make it yours and make it something that you can actually be more efficient with. And I think that the scene number, the scene count, is not the important thing on the first act. The most important thing on the first act is the elements you have there, which again are very useful in order to convey and communicate all the things that we said before. So, in this first act first of all, we have the opening image. So that's actually something that comes out of your creativity or your mind. Maybe it's a theme you have already in your mind and you want to start by putting an opening image that has something to do with this theme. Maybe it's a photo you saw. Maybe it's an event that you've been in. Maybe it's a protest rally that you've been in. Maybe it's a character that you know that has a specific trait. Maybe there are so many ways to start your movie, to start your script. And it's so beautiful that you can have your mind free-flowing on that image, and then you can decide which is going to be your opening image. Sometimes when I'm using an image as a source of inspiration, I like to fantasize or even put in front of me in a hard copy some images. So when I'm putting these images in front of me, I like to meddle them around. So I might think that, okay, this is my idea, and then I have this first image here that I'm sure that this is the opening image, and then I have another one that's in the middle, and then I have another one which is in the end, and then I try to find more images in between. And if I can have them in front of me in a hard copy, it's even better, because if you move them around and if you start playing with them, then you will see that it might be that one of them in the middle that you found, it could be better for you, or it works better in your script to put it in the beginning. And that's actually very challenging and very beautiful. So you can actually start creating something and push yourself to do more with these images. And a very nice way also is if you have found the finishing of your film, that's even more challenging. For example, you have a final image that you think, and this is the end of your film. Okay, it might be the best finishing that you have found in the world, but a great exercise that actually I did and it made me, I think, a better writer is to take this final image and put it somewhere in the middle and start writing from there. So that's even more challenging. You have something set up, you think that it's the end, and then you take this, you put it in the middle, and then you forcing, it's not forcing yourself like taking your head and hitting it in a window, keep writing from there. But you're exercising, you're shaping your craft even more because it's a challenge. Let's say it's not forcing yourself, it's challenging for yourself to start creating from something that you think that is already done. So in the opening image, we have actually the presentation of the character and the world that they live in. Here is a very good chance to show this world and how they are communicating and interacting with this world. And it's it's really open to you. It's really up to you if you want to present in the first scene, in the first opening scene, the first beat, the big tangible want or the big obstacle that is there. It's up to you. There are a lot of screenplays, a lot of movies you have seen, and now if you think about it, that they put the tangible want or the huge obstacle in the beginning, like in the first image you see, in the first sequence you see. And this is totally up to you, but the thing is that in a general idea, in the first 10 pages, you have to present it anyways. So let's keep it like this. The opening image is something that actually introduces the audience to the world, to your world, and that they're going to be traveling with you. They're going to be going on a journey with you. And if you think about, for example, let's say True Detective Season 1, what is the thing that keeps people watching the first season? My focus was solely on Matthew McConaughey and the journey he had from what we saw in the beginning, which was a drunk, really worn out guy, very tired, being questioned by two FBI cops. What took this guy to reach to that point from the man that we saw some years before, clean cut, no beard, no alcohol, very, very huge change that the character did. So this series got me hooked from the first moment because I saw these two elements in the first minutes. Two totally different versions of the same character. And then immediately we go to the second element of the first act, which is the theme. The theme that it's stated very clearly from the writer. So in the theme statement, we see Matthew McConaughey talking about all these bad things in the world and all these things on his on his present life, which he's totally fed up and being questioned by the FBI. But then we go back and we start seeing this world that he's describing some years after. How was it, and how he starts shaping this idea for the world in his mind. So by that point, we have reached already the 5 pages, let's say, of our script. And then we have something that is called the setup. So we have to set up the whole story. I told you again, this is not a rule. You can break it. You can have the setup in the first moment of your script up to the 17th page. It's not a problem. 20th page, it doesn't matter. But I'm talking about the elements you need to have there, and an order that, is a template to work on. It's something that you can start writing from. Let's face it, it's not that you're going to be, making something completely from scratch and something that never came out before. Of course, you gotta see movies, you gotta read other scripts, and of course, you can start writing your script by basing it in other people's scripts. This is not a sin, Copying is a very bad thing, but mimicking a way of writing a script is a really, really good way and start shaping your craft. So take your favorite script, break it down, and start working with this structure in your own. So by this way, you're going to be, mimicking and taking taking ideas from your favorite professional writers and mimicking their way of working in terms of structure. So it's not bad. Go ahead and do it. So as I told you, the setup can start from the first moment and it can go up to, let's say, 10 pages of the script. Or it can start after you have an opening image and then you have the theme that you're stating, and then you can start putting the setup. It's up to you. And by helping you a little bit more, I would advise you to think of the first 10 pages as a setup, as the setup of your screenplay, of your story. So I would say that, the first act has definitely from the 0 pages, the first page up to the 10th page has the setup. And within these 10 pages, you have the opening image and you have also the theme that you're stating. But as I told you, this is how it works for me. So you don't have to do the same things. I'm telling you that I'm dealing the first 10 pages as the total setup of my film. No matter how you do it, the first 10 pages of your script should be completed with a full setup on the 10th page. Now, by this page, the 10th page, the audience should be able to connect with your character. That means that we need to have a presentation of the character and the big want, tangible want that they have in order for the audience to connect with them, cheer for them, fear for them, cry for them, laugh with them. So in order to maintain connection, actually in order to start the connection with the audience, we need to do this up to the 10th page of our script. So we are in the 10th page. You have set the initial big tangible want, the initial goal of your character, and the audience starts connecting with this want. Now, if you haven't noticed already, your favorite films have an event that occurs usually on the 10th minute, around the 10th minute. So that's called the catalyst. And this is where, timing-wise, most of the screenplays have it there. So the catalyst is actually the engine starts working with your first 10 minutes, and then the catalyst actually starts putting more fuel in the movie. And this is a point that actually after 10-17 minutes when you've been to the cinema, if the story is not so powerful and truthful and connecting to you, and you haven't identified the tangible want of the character and maybe the obstacle already, it's just to mark down here, it's really, really, really vital, I think, that the obstacle should be clear from the beginning. And that's clearly up to you again, but in my opinion, you should see it in the beginning, at least on the 10th page, because when we have the catalyst, it's something that really changes the story and starts pushing things up. So, what is a catalyst? A catalyst is an event. It's the first big event that happens to your movie. And this is really important because when this happens, then whatever you saw up to the 10th page is not going back. Let me make it more clear. There is an event that happens, and we have established a specific life of a character up to that point. And when the catalyst happens, this life will never go back the way it was. And it, of course, has to always do with his tangible want, the big tangible want. And it's a very good moment to introduce the formidable obstacle. So if you make clear what they want, what they need, what they are so agonizing for, and then you have an obstacle there that, again, it doesn't matter if they're going to make it or not. It doesn't matter if they're going to go through the obstacle or past the obstacle or whatever. They just need to try. State the obstacle and state either their decision to go through it or the intention to go through it. It's all about confronting the obstacles. It's all about confronting the obstacles and moving the story forward. So the last element of the first act, I call it should I. And it's a bit of funny because should I is something that we would never use when we're writing a script. You don't have to question what are you writing. But should I is the way that your character thinks at this moment. There is a debate. Should I do this? Should I continue doing this? Should I move to a different direction? Should I try something different? This normally happens after the 10th minute, so it should be around 7 to 10 pages long. Now, at this moment, we have already established the first act, and now we have to go in the second act, and you have to have an event between these two, between the first and the second act. I'd like to call this a bridge. So you have to have an event that is a bridge. So what comes after the should I? Drums rolling, please. The decision. So the character decides whether he's going to go through this adventure. Actually, it's a call for action. They have to forget what they knew up to that point and start exploring a new way of thinking, a new life, a new path. It's very important that for the bridge, in order to move on to the second act, we have to really make a clear decision on taking this journey. I hope you're not tired already, but yeah, this is really vital information, and I'm trying to share it with you in the most efficient way. Sorry for my English. I know it's not that good, but okay, I'm Greek. Come on, guys. You have to excuse me on that. Okay, let's move on. Now we're breaking in the second act. The second act, okay, if you're using the three-act structure, okay, the second act should go very far. It should go just before the end. But I will give you my way of breaking this in different numbers. So, yeah, stay with me and you will understand what I'm saying. Now, we talked about the protagonist, the main character that does these things. In the second, if we didn't do it already in the first act, which it's up to you again, we definitely have to do it in the second act. In the start of the second act, we have to introduce the new character. We have to present a character or characters that will help the audience understand what this theme is about. But first of all, it will help the character understand what this theme is about and what this story is about and what this obstacle is about. So it's the new characters that are getting born from the intention and the obstacle. This is the way that the characters are getting born, intention and obstacle. So this is a great time for the audience to start getting to know new characters. So we have something in common with them always, even if it's the worst characters we write, the nemesis characters, the worst we can write. We're still connected with them, and we definitely have something in common with them. That's sometimes scary, I know, but yeah, that's the beauty of it also. So when you're writing these characters, make sure you never judge them. Make sure you always feel for them in any specific way, even if they are the worst characters that you can write. When you're introducing these characters, it could be everything. It could be a friend of the character. It could be the boss of the character. It could be the villain. It could be, a teacher. It could be, a flirt, whatever. Whatever helps the character understand the theme of the story and the audience understand better the theme of the story through the eyes of the character. Moving on further to the second act, we have to see if this place that the character goes is a living hell or is a wonderland or is a chocolate factory. It doesn't matter. But in this, when we continue and move on to the script, we have to make the character see if he's really enjoying the new life or he doesn't. Usually, of course, we are a little bit before the midpoint. So we started the second act from the 20th page and on, so let's say 21. And now we have to continue working on this idea, working on this world to see if he hates it or he likes it. For example, I was watching Fargo, the TV series, recently, which is an amazing series, by the way. I really highly recommend you of seeing it. And you see the life of the protagonist, and in the first episode, introduced in this world. You're getting introduced in this world, and you see his life is a living hell. He is bullied. He's having the worst time of his life, and this happens up to the midpoint. So the midpoint of the first episode. Of course, TV writing is completely different from writing for a movie, but we will analyze this in a different episode. But keep this in mind. When you have the introduction and all these things you did in the first act, and then you move on to the second act, just right before the midpoint, when you start writing 20 to 50 pages in there, you have to really press on the feelings the character has from this new world. Okay? So if he likes it, if he loves it, make him love it more. If he hates it, make it horrible for them. And nemesis, make it so hard for them until you reach the midpoint. Because all these tools you're going to be using afterwards in the story anyways. So make sure you analyze very, very well this new world to him. So it's fun, it's flowery, it's like heaven, or it's hell, it's really worse. It's like having Donald Trump next to your bed, like horrible times. So make this very, very loud and make it very, very clear. The more you keep writing on this point before the midpoint, the more you keep writing, the more you will understand the characters want. What is in jeopardy here? What is the risk here? What is the obstacle will keep getting more and more and bigger and more formidable. So it's vital to keep the audience connected to this new life. Now we move to the last part, as I split it, because this is my way of splitting the structure, the acts. The last part of the second act, which is the midpoint, and it's one of the most important things in the story. So let's say we did our work, we have a perfectly written structure, with all the elements we have up to that point, and the audience keeps following you. Now is the time to shake things around. I recently saw Marriage Story, a pure drama that I really loved. Cried. So what happened in Marriage Story? Up to that point, up to the midpoint, we have everything set up in order to understand that they are breaking up. She moves in LA. Everything that happens in the story. But the first time that Adam Driver actually realizes that they are over is when he's served by Scarlett Johansson's friend for the divorce. Even though they were saying that they would not use lawyers, they would not do that, and their life up to that point was moving on, and he could not accept that they're breaking up, and he could not accept that they are living in LA, but they were, he kept saying that the life is in New York. So what he did there is realize for the first time in the film that actually they are getting a divorce. Formally, a divorce, a proper divorce, and there's a kid in the middle. And it's that amazing scene there where he reads the story to the kid, and Scarlett Johansson is crying, and then he's trying to find a couch to sleep, and she says, where are you going to sleep tonight? So you see that up to that point, his world is falling. Up to that point, no, his world was not falling totally apart, but from that point and on, midpoint of the film, last part of the second act for me, everything changed. His life started falling completely apart. So we see a defeat. Let's say a defeat for him. Now, is it a false defeat? Is it a true defeat? It's up to you to decide. We see a defeat in the midpoint of the character that forces him to move to a different direction. So up to that point, we were introduced in this world. He was introduced in this world. So we were introduced through him in this new world. But now he actually lives and accepts this new world. So from that point and on, the midpoint, 50% of your script, he has to be a part of this new world, officially declaring themselves, okay, now I'm fucked. Or now I'm gonna be so married and happy. Anything that happens to this new world at the midpoint of a movie, of a screenplay you're writing, this should be clear to everybody, first of all, him, your character or her, that this is the new world you're living in, and officially you're in there with everything you got. And the Marriage Story is a perfect example because the guy was avoiding, he was introduced to the new world, slowly, and then he was avoiding to see this new world and accept that he's in this new state up to that point. When Scarlett Johansson was seeing that he would not accept this decision, or he is just thinking that, okay, this will go through, this will change. It's just a state of shit we have in our marriage, but this will change, for the good. So at that point, he realizes that no. Maybe I have to start reconsidering this new state and this new world, and now I'm really part of it. Because he asks, the moment he was served, he asks, what should I do now? What should I do with that? And Scarlett said, find a lawyer. And then this new world is official. It cannot be more official than a formal paper from a lawyer. Okay, so you see, the obstacle is huge up to this point. It's getting even bigger. But what you need to keep from this midpoint is that you need to make your character formally, officially a part of this new world. Now, moving on to Act 3 in my breakdown. Okay, let me make clear why do I make these acts more. For me, it's easier to write something if I have smaller parts to write. So if you divide this in 3 parts and you have, let's say, a script of 100 pages long, 105 pages. So you have something like 33, 35 pages per act. If you divide this by 7, then you have so many ways, it's like it's 15 pages per act in order to write. So it makes your life easier. It made my life easier. I don't know if it will make your life easier, but the only reason I'm doing this is to make smaller acts inside this story that I can definitely be more able to tweak and write. That's the only reason behind it and the only thinking behind it. So let's go now and move on to the third act. So the third act, I'd like to call it Donald Trump. So what is Donald Trump? A bad guy. So what's happening here? The defeat or the win, the false defeat or the false win, at this point should start spiraling either up or down in a rapid way. So as you can say, it's like a slide you have in the, slide you call it in English? I don't remember. Yeah, the one that we were used to play as kids. Go down on the slide. So you're up there and either you go down or you climb up. Is the moment that the things for your character will get either worse or better. So it depends. Now in Merit Story, things getting worse for Adam Driver's character. Because he was served and now he has to live through the new situation. And you see that everything starts to go really shit for him. He has this play in Brooklyn and he has to fly between cities and he has to find a lawyer. But the problem is that Scarlett Johansson is going to all the lawyers around LA because there's a law that if one of the divorced members visits a lawyer to talk with them, just talk with them, then the other one has no rights in talking with that lawyer. So it starts from there. He's delayed in the traffic jam in Los Angeles, and there's the kid that doesn't want to go with him, and they go to the lawyers, and the kid says, yeah, we visited already 11 with my mom. And then it's the Halloween thing that he's not allowed to go to the party that they have, and they're doing the Halloween during the day, and he stays with his son in the end of the day that nobody actually cares about the Halloween. So all these things are going too bad for him, very bad, even worse. Now, pay attention. This can get a little bit tricky here because this was a clear defeat he had, all right? So he keeps spiraling down. But if it was a false defeat for you and your character, then he would be getting a false path upwards because this will bring the dramatic juice out when the next acts follow. So he's moving downwards because that was a clear defeat he had. And the choice of the writer was to keep him down. And then you have, of course, the Donald Trump's closing in, all the bad guys coming in rapidly. So the bad guys are Scarlett Johansson's friends, the lawyer, which is Laura Dern, which is very capable of what she's doing. He's too romantic for this divorce. He picks a lawyer in the beginning, which is Ray Liotta, that is very strict with the things that he's doing, and he's really, really a bitch. So that was the lawyer that actually was doing things strictly by the letter of the law and with bad games that they are playing, the lawyers are playing. So he was like a bad lawyer for him. He thought it was the bad lawyer. He was the bad lawyer for him because he was too romantic for this divorce. And he hired another lawyer that only brought trouble because he was also too romantic and a little bit naive. And yeah, he was an old guy that he found himself in the foot of this character. And he was not the lawyer that he could actually take him out of this mess. Now, this point is around 20 to 25 pages. So we reached around 70, 75 pages of the script. Now, the fourth act, I call it gone. So everything is gone by the fourth act. Your character reaches to the lowest point that can possibly go. And in Merit's story, this is the part where the specialist, the social worker that is specialized in kids and families, has been assigned to watch one day of the kid with their parent. And that point is the lowest point that he can reach, because when the social worker arrives to the house, everything goes bad. We see him not able to establish a connection with his son. He's trying to push him to come and help in the kitchen while he was playing in the room. And then the kid, of course, because kids say the most horrible things. They're not monsters, but they say the most horrible things they can say. So the kid says in the table with her present, do this thing with a knife. And that was actually a thing he was doing with a knife that the social worker asks, what is this thing with a knife? And he says, no, that's something very silly that I do with a pen knife that I have. And then the kid continues and says, yeah, but you told me I can get a knife as well. And Adam Driver says, yeah, I said that, but when you grow up, a small knife. When you grow up, maybe you get a knife, and maybe a small knife. So this gets even worse in the night when he's, he doesn't know what to do, how to behave, and he takes out the knife to do the trick, and he forgets to detract the blade, and he's bleeding to death. And the social worker also sees the hole on the wall, which is by Adam Driver punching the wall when they had this huge fight with Scarlett Johansson. And in the end, she says, okay, that will be all. I will be leaving the house. And he's bleeding already. He tries to hide the bleeding, but the door doesn't open. It's stuck. And he goes there to help. And he holds the door with his hand, and, it's bleeding. So, yeah, that one terrible. Completely terrible. And when he closes the door, his son goes in the kitchen to get some water, and he sees Adam Driver on the ground, fainting. He almost fainted by losing that much blood. And he asks, did he find us good? And he said, yeah, she found us very good. So this is the lowest point that the character can get to. After that, we go to moving on to the fifth act, which I call it Blue. And it's the blues of the soul. 5 to 7 pages long of the character digesting all these bad experiences. This is the moment that your character decides, after processing the whole information they have up to that point, and decides what could be the solution to this problem, and has to take action. So this is the thinking point, the process, the digesting. It's the blues of the soul that your character is experiencing. To the sixth act, entering the sixth act, which is a very small act, could be 1 page or something, the character must decide that they must do something about it. Confronting all the problems, confronting all the situation that you have built up to that point. So we see all the internal and external conflict they have with all the problems that they were made up to that point. So we reach the sixth act up to 77, 82 pages already in the script. So that's the sixth act. And after that, we have the seventh. So the seventh act, for me, I like to keep it as one again, the same as the first one, because it's the end. It's how things will go from that point. As you understand, of course, this is up to you, whatever, whether you want a happy ending, whether you want a very bad ending, it depends on the story you're writing or whatever you're writing. But in the end, we have some things happening that they conclude the story. So they made already a plan to deal with this thing, and then they have to gather the associates, the friends, anything they can, the conspirators, anything they can. They have to gather them, get them in their team, and perform the last attack, for example. Now, in this point, the secondary characters are really important because you have to decide what you're going to do with them. I mean, you gathering them around the character in order to execute a plan, to perform an action or do whatever you want to do. But at this point, you might sacrifice some of them, you might keep some of them. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. But, if you have losses at this point, it's very dramatic and very compelling to your story. You have to make a point in the end. I mean, it's really important to keep the audience connected to this point. If they win, it's because they found a different way of executing a plan that was already in their soul, in their minds, and all the obstacles forced them to put their hands in their guts and take it out and do it. Find the courage, find the strength for your protagonist in order to make it through. And everything will be connected to you, to your character, and to your audience. And in the end, you will have, as you had in the beginning, you had an opening image, you will have the final image of the film, which reflects the whole journey. It's describing the whole journey the character went from the opening image to the final image. So in there, you must include all the feelings and all the lessons learned and anything you can put on. So the final image is something really important because it's the last thing that the audience also sees. So make sure you put everything in there. So that was it. I hope you enjoyed my third episode of my podcast. It was a long episode, but I hope you gathered some very good information regarding the structure. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. I don't know where you're listening from or whatever. I would love to hear your opinions and anything you want to say about this podcast. You find more information about my workshops. I offer also group and 1v1 consultation on scripts or whatever you want to do. You can find this information on my website, which is www.kostakalogiros.com, and that's with a C. Costa is with a C. kostakalogiros.com. And remember, whatever you're doing, if you think you're blocked, if you think you're bad at what you're doing or whatever, just keep writing, and everything will come together. Thank you so much, and see you next week.